I feel in the face of all the problems in the world impotent, and why I somehow cannot manage to transform I. Now here we get to the real problem, because we're always telling each other that we should be different. Now, I'm not going to tell you that tonight. Why not? Because I know you can't. Nor can I. That may sound depressing, but I'll tell you it isn't. It's very hard. But everybody, you see, who is at all sensitive and awake to their own problems and human problems is trying to change himself. We know we can't change the world unless we change ourselves.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Bit late today, and I'm a bit woozy. It's been a long day. So we're going to keep this live stream short. Let's talk about this nice bearish confirmation candle. 13% drop all at once within a matter of minutes. And that's about as close. Well, I actually don't know what the short to long ratio is right now. I rarely check that information, so I'm not going to use the term short squeeze. To be honest, it doesn't really matter. What does matter is a bearish confirmation candle. So we actually had two bearish confirmation candles, and I didn't take bets on either of them. Let's hit play. Sorry. I just realized I need to record this idea as well. So we had two bearish confirmation candles, and only one of them ended up being valid, right? If you end up tagging the 3.2 standard deviation on the daily chart, the next red candle close is going to be a short entry on that macro time frame. So in this instance, this would have been a short, and that most certainly would have stopped out, and any kind of leverage there would have been awful for you. So a 1x short in this scenario. And I've slowly been tethering out step by step, kind of dollar cost averaging into tether, taking my time on that front. And I'm happy to say this bearish confirmation candle also resulted in, well, finally, a significant downward move that finally ended the exponential parabola. And this is very good news, as it means we've entered the next compressionary phase of the crash pattern. And yes, I still consider us in the crash pattern, and I'm going to explain why here. Let's pop over to the weekly chart and switch ourselves to the BLX ticker. Okay. So up here on this beautiful chart, as soon as it loads, much obliged. That's actually really attractive. We are trading laterally as defined by the 200 periods containment zone over here in the weekly chart. And yeah, this really confirms my suspicion as for where exactly we are on this chart. Okay. So this is really beautiful. Last time we re-entered the 200 containment zone, we retraced down exactly to the weekly 200 moving average, and we entered the 200 containment zone, and we retraced exactly down to the weekly 200 moving average. Now, initially, we expected a rejection of the weekly 50 MA and a subsequent bounce on the weekly 200, but that did not happen. We actually just decided to bolt straight up above the weekly 50. And oddly enough, this accumulation period has happened much faster than the previous crash patterns, despite the increased liquidity? That's not quite right. Despite the increased price due to the logarithmic curve of the trend. There we go. So what's really cool about this is last time we broke up above the weekly 50 MA, guess what we saw? a parabolic move that ended at the retest of the weekly 200 1.25 standard deviation. And lo and behold, what is the current pivot that we have just been rejected from? Why, it's none other than the top edge of the 1.25 standard deviation of the 200 period on the weekly chart. So, all in all, this is pretty good confirmation, I would say. And even though I say that this is bearish confirmation, really, I'm going to point out that I think now at this time, I no longer believe there's going to be any significant selling pressure to take us back below the weekly 200. I believe we're going to retest our previous lows of the weekly 200 moving average. Mostly because of the way the previous expansion and compression periods have played out. Now, the last time we had this significant of a move and this level of mass generation was the crash on mid-November that resulted in this downward move. And what's particularly important to note here is when this significant downward move happened, we saw lateral mean reversion where we had the initial relief rally followed by a significant period of compression. And what I'm seeing now on this chart is we are getting that same relief rally, or in this instance, relief sell-off, followed by a subsequent compressionary period. And just, we will actually be able to define how long the compressionary period will last by looking at the mass readings. This is really cool. You know, you can predict when trend will resume based on when the volatility overhead evaporates, as your volatility overhead restores the chart to a state of potential energy once it compresses to reasonable periods, right? So we have this plume of distributional width, and you'll notice that the new upward expansion does not begin until it goes the entire period, all the periods return below the 0.7 value. And this was net compression, which is the highest possible state of potential energy in the market. When people say, oh, look, a Bollinger Band squeeze, we're going to get a trend. Yes, they're right, but they are only looking at one period. When we look at net compression, we are looking at, in fact, 32 different periods, all with the same confluent signal. Is it confluent or confluent? I don't know. It reminds me, do you guys ever play Journey in 2011? It was that really nice art game with a great soundtrack by Austin Wintory. One of the songs was named... there were actually like 4 songs named like the first confluence, second confluence. And I don't think I've ever heard someone actually say the word. I just know the names of the songs and what they mean. Okay, that was a really bad tangent. Back to on topic. Let's switch from BLX to the actual ticker here so we can look at the current price move, shall we? Yeah, these moves look really paralleled, and I'm pretty excited to see what's going to happen here. What's super important to note is our mass generation here isn't completed. So we want to look at how high this is actually going to go. And when we get that value, we're going to be able to define the compressionary range much better than we're currently doing on the daily chart. On the 4-hour chart, we actually do have defined mean reversion pivots, and we have crossed them. A cat with charts here is watching this video and talking about this move. And he says the 3 times resolution has 3 times as many periods as far as the wave PM tracking goes. So, yeah, the point is net compression is a fantastic way of restoring, or rather identifying high states of potential energy. And I suppose it is important to note, let's actually talk about this. Let's look at right here at 7:53 Right out of this candle here, we presented the question, oh, is it time to short Bitcoin? And I actually didn't end up calling it because I was busy. That's pretty disappointing. I actually didn't make any money on this downward move from Bitcoin itself. I am currently short on Litecoin and TRX, and well, it's treating me rather nicely since we've been in that downtrend for quite some time. And as far as TRX goes, goodness gracious, we've still more bearish confirmation, and I actually entered that short right here at this location, right? Because quad CCI roll down on the 4-hour chart was very kind to me. So actually referring to Bitcoin here, let's actually define some nice short-term mean reversion pivots. Also, bad, not good, watching the YouTube video comments. LOL, miss a 100% move, hit a top and scream bear confirmation. Yeah, that's 100% correct, actually. I'm not even going to deny that. You're totally right. Yeah, I did miss a majority of the upward move. You're totally correct. However, if we have a broken parabola and crossed mean reversion pivots, well, then I can accurately predict what's going to happen afterwards. That's the nice thing about the market. You don't always have to be right. You don't always have to predict what's going to happen. You just have to identify what might happen some of the time at a slightly better probability than half the time, assuming your profit ratio is 2 to 1. Currently, my win rate's only 43%, but the profit ratio is 4 to 1. So, good things come to those who wait. Anyway, let's actually take a look at this mass reading. All right, we have the 200 period. Wow, actually 220, so we'll change that. And we actually hit the mean reversion. I should have shorted this. I was eyeing it, I didn't do it, and I'm kind of annoyed at myself. I saw the 13% drop. Anyway, we have significant bearish confirmation, and we're now in a longer period of compression. Right, so when we entered this band, that confirmed that we would be retesting this 200 period right here. Bad, not good asks, should we not always try and improve our ability to see both sides? Yeah, dude, you're totally right. 100%, I agree with you. Right? However, if we are on the daily chart and we are tagging the 3.2 standard deviation, which should theoretically contain 99.8% of the data during times of significant expansion. In other words, when you have your period above the 0.9 value on the wave PM, assuming there would be more upside, it would require an unrealistic amount of force. So pretty much the only area where I have... What? Why is this no longer... Wasn't this recording? Oh. Okay, I guess this is just a YouTube video today. But really the only place I would have considered entering longs would have been in like these 4 candles here, right? Because this here I considered mean reversion pivots to the downside. And then as soon as we were tagging the 3.2 standard deviation, well, you don't want to take longs when you're hitting extreme values during periods of significant expansion, right? The 3.2 standard deviation like this here during a place of significant compression, right, where we have all these periods in a high state of potential energy. Ooh, right? No, that's just trend. That's just net expansion. But when you're tagging these values in a place of significant expansion, that's a totally different scenario. And we can actually look at it here too, where we have all this nice tight compression, and you know, when we tag the extreme values, it doesn't actually mean all that much because you are in an active state of trend before you have added excessive mass, right? Damn, were those your knuckles cracking? Yeah, this is a really nice microphone. It picks up everything. So, I want to make it my ringtone. God damn it, James. It's too late for this. I'm feeling pretty good tonight. Had a rather heroic dose of kava. Kava is fantastic. I don't drink alcohol anymore, and kava is an excellent replacement. It's pretty good stuff, man. You know, one of the most important parts of trading is keeping a positive mood and staying lucid while doing so. And, well, if you can just drink some cozy root powder that you bought off Amazon to do that, then congratulations. Self-actualize your gains, mind you. So yeah, I can look in hindsight and say, wow, look at that nice short opportunity we had. All I want, and why it was logical to do so. But if I didn't make any money off of Bitcoin itself at this time, then what's the point, right? So what we're gonna do, let's look at the 1 hour chart. Bad, not good asks, what are the effects? Slightly sedating, positive boost in mood, and I wouldn't really, it's not really a high. It's more of just like a shift of perception. Unless you do lots of it. But it's similar to alcohol. Well, rather like the social effects of alcohol without the intoxication. That's the way I would put it. It's a really, really comfy way to alter yourself without impairing yourself. That's the way I would say it. Anyway, let's define the 220 period. Did I already define it? I did. Okay. So we have the 220 period, which means we will get lateral trading as defined by its 1.25 standard deviation. And I'm just going to point out what that looks like to you. These pivots here should be nice and compress rather well. I can also recommend ashwagandha for mood. That's another ground up root. And Akuama's okay. But Hansley asks, can I send you some cocaine for your next vid? No, thank you. I actually don't do any stimulants at all. I gave up coffee as well. Sorry. Let's see here. I don't know. I do know. Just kidding. Right, so we're going to stay inside this bin. That's what we need to look at. Nice and compressed. So really, probably not going to go below this bottom value here. And we're not really going to make any new higher highs. So we can actually... I'm actually going to do this. Watch this. Because we can make some pretty cool long and short signals here. Right, so we have the 220. Watch this, guys. You're going to like this. We can set this to the first standard deviation and use it to make alerts. Let's actually do the one, I want like a little bit closer. So let's do like the 1.08. And you'll probably catch on what I'm trying to do here. I'm going to set alerts so that when we either cross the top edge, that's too high. Let's do 1.04. Yeah, dude, you can just get like a pound of kava for like $30 on Amazon. It's great. So, because we know it's going to be contained in that compressing range, we can set an alarm for upper band 1. Yeah, it's crossing. No, wait. Shoot. I want Bitcoin crossing Bollinger Band Meow Mix upper band 1. This is just going to say BTC short. Yeah, it's fine. And then we're going to make a second one. BTC crossing Bollinger Band Meow Mix lower band 1. It's going to be BTC long. Right, so because we know this is going to be defined in this range, we can semi-accurately or rather, have these pivots. Actually, they're not really pivots as much as supports and resistances. And they are dynamic, so that's why I'm using the 1.04 standard deviation, so that if price crosses up here, I'll be notified that a potential short is okay. And if we cross below here, I'll know that a potential long is okay. So, gonna be trying to play both sides of this equation. And because we're most likely going to flag it out here, and again, because of the way the weekly chart looks on the BLX, I'm going to show you this. It's going to be cool. Okay, watch this. So last time we had the exponential move above the weekly 50-moving average at this location. Lo and behold, what did we get? Compressing range right on top. I think this is the final stage of accumulation, guys. I'm going to be honest. So we get this compressing range here. After this compressing range, we're going to get a bull run. Unless, of course, we get a downward break and retest the weekly 200, which I'm totally okay with. Like, please, let that happen. I always want a lower range to accumulate in. But the most immediate thing I can recommend is wait to see which way this breaks. Because we actually have some, again, nice, maybe not bearish confirmation, but at least confirmation that the upward trend is over. I can very confidently say that. Okay, now watch this. You're going to like this. So you see this upward move here? That period's expanded to the 100. Okay, I'm going to set this to 100 and watch what happens. Actually, I only want this one visible. And I haven't back tested this, so I'm kind of curious as to what's going to happen. Okay, cool. So longest over expanded period was 100 here. You can see some fighting on the pivot right here. And that's tricky. I might have shorted, no. I might have shorted there, and I probably would have stopped out with the resumption of the uptrend, right? Because this is a pivot, and price volatility is high on pivots. But we had the upward expansion. We retested the pivot for compression, and we went up. And then when we actually finally entered the period, we traded laterally as defined by the longest over expanded period's 1.25 standard deviation, which in turn, oh my God, restored the market to a state of potential energy, which you can see here, right? Where all our wave PM periods are below the 0.7 value. Dude, right? And once we have this restoration of potential energy, we resume upward trend, which in turn, guess what that does? Has a new longest over expanded period of 200. So I'm going to set this to 200 and watch what happens. Oh my God, it's gonna be so easy to make money in the next 6 months. I know that's aggressively long, but bear with me. So this ended up being the last period of compression before the bull run, right? Where we have reaccumulation, markup, reaccumulation, and then uptrend. But look at that, where we re-enter the 1.25 standard deviation of the longest over expanded period, and we see mean reversion to the exact mean compression as defined by the longest over expanded period until the exact moment where it returns below the 0.7 value, right at this candle. Oops, sorry, that candle. So, right here, at that location, price could resume trend because the market sufficiently restored itself to a state of potential energy. Is that correct? It's not. I actually got the period wrong. Excuse me. Okay, so it's this period right here, the 200. And it's this candle right there. Okay, yeah, I got it right. Never mind. Sorry. Just when you zoom out, it's kind of hard to tell. Then we get the resumption of trend. Okay. So, really, I firmly believe we have entered our reaccumulation phase, where we have started this beautiful period of compression as defined by a longest overexpanded period. Well, we actually have we crossed our mean inversion pivot on the daily? It's currently 90. Let's check it out. I don't think we have. But actually being able to define this is going to be good. Yeah, we have not. We're still technically in a state of trend on the daily chart. That's really important to note. On the 4-hour chart, we're in a state of compression. So do you know what that means? We're going to have compression as defined by this period here. Right? And let's just draw on that band loosely. That's clean. So now when we look at that same drawing on the daily chart, guess what we're going to see? Okay? If, in this period of compression here, we actually end up re-entering the longest overexpanded period of... Oh, I didn't adjust the period on the 4-hour chart, excuse me. I made a mistake. Okay, so we need to adjust that to 220 on this chart. It's the same pivot. I'm thinking about the 1 hour. Okay, so it's the 220 on this chart, right? Where if we re-enter this span, we'll get mean inversion down to this mean, which is going to be around 5,900, right? So let's just draw on that pivot here, like that. And then we're going to go to the 1 hour chart and looking at the compressing range for the longest overexpanded period here, which was 220 again? I don't remember. I'm really tired. I should have shorted this. It was kind of just like taking the evening to de-stress. It's been a stressful day. Come on. I have worked out 52 days in a row, by the way. Very proud of myself. Also, do you guys want to hear me play the accordion? I kind of want to. I'm pretty good at it. It's also 220. That's cool. Nice. Oh my god. It's kind of cool how the mean of the 4-hour mean inversion is also the exact same pivot as the mean inversion on the 4-hour. That's cool. I like it. I don't have any water. Oh, I do have water. That's good. Good water. Should I get my accordion? Hey, viewership's pretty good. I'm gonna get my accordion and ruin it. I've arrived. Okay, I'm gonna impress you fools. Anyway, sorry for subjecting you to that. We def need that ASMR Dad Shark knuckle cracking YouTube channel. I refuse. Thank you for the suggestion. Suggestion, Jesus. Gervis says, please no. Okay, I'll stop. How many viewers did we just lose? 1. That's pretty good. Well, I'm pretty much out of things to say about Bitcoin. I'm gonna look at XRP real quick because I'm longing it. Pretty cool how XRP hasn't really lost any value here. Might change. Let's actually define the mean inversion pivot. Just gotta wait for it to load. Nice. We're looking at the 120. Oh, that's totally hit, isn't it? How concerning. Yeah, that's a bearish mean inversion. We need to retrace to 48. So I'm probably going to sell out of my XRP and buy back in at that value, okay? Alrighty, folks. Yeah, that's it. I'm done. I'll see you folks later. Have a good one.